in Kamala Harris, and this is what she stands for. She is the kind of mascot for all this stuff.
Well, is she the mascot because she's a black woman, or do you believe that her politics are using these concepts unfairly? When you say mascot, what do you mean?
Well, it's the policies, but the real reason is that she was put in her position because she's a black woman, and that's not me saying that. I mean, that's Joe Biden said that. Joe Biden said that he was going to, when he was looking for a vice president candidate, he was going to look for a black woman, and he ruled out all other demographics ahead of time.
Matt Walsh went on News Nation to talk to Chris Cuomo, who tried to paint him into a corner, who tried to kind of catch him in a gotcha moment. And Matt Walsh absolutely annihilates Chris Cuomo and embarrasses him on his own show. Let's get into this clip here where Matt Walsh goes and gets interviewed on News Nation by Chris Cuomo and absolutely demolishes Cuomo for trying to, like I said, get a gotcha moment on him and try to paint him as this certain thing. Let's get into this clip here where Matt Walsh destroys Chris Cuomo.
Then decides to go undercover. Joins us now. Thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Matt, what do you hope to achieve with this film?
Well, this is our exploration of the DEI so-called anti-racist hustle, the scam. And so we want to expose these con artists for what they are, the people that are pushing this stuff. But we want to do it, comedically with humor. We want to do it in an entertaining way, which is why as you covered, I go on my own journey of racial awakening. And I listen to these people. I listen to what they say. I try to put their teachings into practice in the film. I let them guide me down the rabbit hole so that the viewer can see by the end of the film where it leads. And it leads to some pretty wild and demented places, frankly. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but we take the path where they lead us.
So let's figure out for you what the line is, because I'm sure that diversity, equity, inclusion, these are not bad words for you. So what is the line to where you believe those honorable concepts become something different?
When it's all based in left-wing racial ideology, which these days, I mean, sure, there's a way that you could use the word diversity that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Inclusion doesn't necessarily, there are ways you can include people. That's obviously not.
The problem is, though, equity as a concept is flawed. It is bad. Like, having just equality of outcome no matter what, I mean, that means no matter how incompetent or competent someone is, they should make the same amount of money as the other person. No matter how qualified someone is based on their degrees or their experience, it doesn't matter. They should make the same amount of money as other people, or they should be allowed in certain schools. It doesn't matter what kind of grades the other person has. There's equity. Like that equity is stupid. Equity is a flawed concept completely. So it's not that diversity, equity, and inclusion are all just bad words inherently, no matter what context they're used in. Equity, I guess you could probably go find some certain context where equity is a good word, where equity is a good concept. But in the terms of DEI, in the terms of people making certain money or being put in certain positions, being led into certain schools, equity is a bad thing. Equity is a bad word. I can't think of a situation off the top of my head right now. Let me know in the comments if you know one where equity isn't stupid. And I know that's like a personal belief of mine, but I just think the most qualified person, the best person for everything, not just jobs or schools, but for everything, should always win out. I don't care if it hurts anyone's feelings. I don't care if it hurts my feelings if I lose something because I'm not the most qualified or the best person. Equity is a dumb concept in general.
Not bad. But when these terms are used and when it's put together, DEI, it always means left-wing racial ideology. What is left-wing racial ideology? Well, to sum it up in the most simple way possible, it's the idea that white people are inherently racist, inherently bad, and that nobody who is not white can be racist, and that white people are the author of all the oppression and suffering in the world. That's the belief, and every single one of these DEI people, that is absolutely what they believe. I'm not simplifying it at all. That is what they believe, and if it's grounded in that, then it's evil, it's wrong.
What conclusion do you draw? And maybe you just told us there in the end of that last sentence, but, build it out, expound a little for us. What is your conclusion about why the people that you encountered do what you call evil?
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Because there's a lot of money in it, and we explore that in the film. In fact, we pay these race hustlers, Robin DiAngelo and others, to be in the film. We put their price tag on the screen because it's part of it's part of the scam. So there's money in it. There's also influence. There's power. There's political advantages. Listen, when people are very obsessively focused on race and they're resentful and angry and they feel guilt and suspicion and all that stuff based on race, they're much easier to manipulate. And that's why they do it. That's why these race hustlers do it in the DEI world. That's why Democrat politicians do it. We have the DEI presidential candidate right now in Kamala Harris, and this is what she stands for. She is the kind of mascot for all this stuff.
Well, is she the mascot because she's a black woman, or do you believe that her politics are using these concepts unfairly? When you say mascot, what do you mean?
Well, it's the policies, but the real reason is that she was put in her position because she's a black woman, and that's not me saying that. I mean, that's Joe Biden said that. Joe Biden said that he was going to, when he was looking for a vice president candidate, he was going to look for a black woman, and he ruled out all other demographics ahead of time and only focused on this demographic. That's DEI. That's what DEI is.
You see the panic on Cuomo's face right now. He's like, oh my God, I shouldn't have asked that question. Let's move on. I don't know if it's because of his News Nation handlers. I don't know if it's he wants to get an interview with Kamala Harris. I don't know what it is, but you could tell that he is uncomfortable with Matt Walsh going in on Kamala Harris right there. He does not like that, and he wants to get as far away from this particular conversation as possible. But, I mean, Matt Walsh is obviously completely correct. That's just not something that you're supposed to say on mainstream media. You're not supposed to say, because you could tell that Chris Cuomo was trying to give Matt Walsh an out there by saying, but is she a DEI candidate because she's a black woman or because of her policies? And Matt Walsh goes, well, it's because of her policies, but also because she's a black woman. And he's just like, he just doesn't care. That's what I love about Matt Walsh. You know, I criticize the Daily Wire a whole lot for a lot of things that they did, especially with the Candace Owens situation and all that. But Matt Walsh is one of the good ones, I think, inside of the Daily Wire. He definitely doesn't give in to all the BS, and I really respect him for that. And that's one of those moments right there between Matt Walsh and Chris Cuomo where he just doesn't care about what you think. He doesn't care about what he isn't supposed to say on News Nation or on mainstream media. He's just like, is it because she's a black woman? Yeah, it's because she's a black woman. But it's not because of I'm saying that. It's because Joe Biden said that. Joe Biden said he didn't hire her because for any other reason other than she's a black woman. And I mean, it's correct. He did say that.
It's judging people based on the color of their skin, excluding people.
I believe he only said woman, and he wound up picking a black woman. But he did say he was going to pick a woman, and you can argue that did close off any choice of having a man there, unless it was a man that decided to identify as a woman. But you don't believe that the policy should matter more than the personage of the candidate, right? It's not what she is that is your issue. It's how she is.
Right, that's what we're saying. Those of us who are anti-DEI, our whole point is that what matters is the policies. What matters is the merit of the person. It's when you're in the DEI world, that's where you're dividing people based on race. Okay, you get this because this is your race. You're included because it's your race. No, we don't want you because you're the wrong race. That's the DEI. That's exactly what this film, that's the attitude this film is meant to expose.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com
to
find
news.
Job.
Oh my God, I don't care. It did do a great job. The film did. It was an awesome film. Am I racist is what he's talking about there. But I think Matt Walsh just does such a great job when he goes on these shows and these people try to like paint him in a certain way. They try to push him in a certain direction where they're like, yeah, but she's not. It's not DEI. She's not DEI candidate because she's a black woman, right? Matt Walsh is just like, yeah, it is because she's a black woman. Why else would it be? But it's not because I'm saying that. It's because you're saying Joe Biden's saying that. The left wing is saying that. And it is just a ridiculous problem. I always talk about this, but it's completely correct. People like Matt Walsh have been warning about this, and I don't really like him too much, but it's undeniable. Ben Shapiro has been warning about this. All the OGs in the space have been warning about this for the longest time, calling out that these things that are being pushed onto people, onto society nowadays with the trans ideology or just all of the woke stuff that they're pushing, all the identity politics, that there's slippery slopes. And everybody was saying, oh, that's a logical fallacy, slippery slope argument, logical fallacy. And time again, it becomes correct. It becomes like the slope is in fact slippery, as I always say. Like we've realized that it is a slippery slope, not just with the trans ideology. And I mean, look at what Chris Cuomo just said to Matt Walsh. The only way that Joe Biden would have picked a vice president that's a man is if he decided to identify as a woman. And they both kept a straight face as he was saying that. If you would have said that 20 years ago on the news, it would have even, it probably wouldn't have even gotten a laugh, because the other person would have just been like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, identify as a woman, what does that mean? It wouldn't even be funny, because there's nothing to laugh at. It's just like, you just sound crazy. You sound like a crazy person saying something like that. Nowadays, it's past the point of parody to where it's just like understood even by people like Matt Walsh. When Chris Cuomo says, unless he identifies as a woman, it's just like, yeah, that's true. What? That's the definition of slippery slope. What we've been through is the slippery slope, and we're now like towards the bottom of the slope now. That is the result of a slippery slope right there, by that becoming normalized. And things like that, you know, the fact that Joe Biden could just come out and say, yeah, I wanted to get a woman as a vice president, therefore just excluding all men candidates who could have been much better for the job, which I was talking about earlier is the flaw in the equity word and the equity concept. You're going to pass up a whole lot of people who are much more qualified, much better, much more experienced, just for the sake of hiring people who are certain colors or certain genders. It's really, really dumb. And Joe Biden, honestly, ironically enough, probably cost the Democrats this election by choosing someone like Kamala Harris, although he might have won his election because he chose someone like Kamala Harris, because then he got, you know, the diversity part covered, because he's a white man, straight white man. They don't like those things over on the left. So he had to go get a black woman to kind of balance it out. That black woman ended up, I think that selection ended up costing in the 2024 election, because how horrible of a candidate she was. She's so obnoxious. She's so insufferable that it lost in the election. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Matt Walsh going on News Nation here and absolutely just destroying Chris Cuomo to his face for trying to save the conversation. I don't know if it's his handlers, like I said, that was telling him to get off of that topic, or if they're trying to get on Kamala Harris's good side for whatever reason, but Matt Walsh just wasn't having it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole Matt Walsh versus Chris Cuomo situation.